she was then walking over to Stanley Tucci in the bath, and I kind of thought, well, we don't see Stanley Tucci's Todger.
Gonads. Todger. I hate Todger so much.
Hello and welcome to Cruise Next, your favourite film podcast. My name is James Albarn, joined as ever by Elsa Grace. How are you, Elsa?
Very well, thank you.
Today we are talking about A Private War. And we got to this film through the crew member, Francesco Alberico, the makeup artist on our last film, The Edge of Tomorrow. Wasn't that a good one?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you went too hard on the Spanish on the first name and then you just dropped it on the last name. So you went Francisco Alberico.
Ladies and gentlemen, Foreign Correspondent of the Year, Marie Colvin.
Where did you get that eye patch?
Treasure Island. I need a photographer. Any good?
The best. Can't stop thinking about it.
Once you go crazy, it's not something you get used to. War is not so terrible for governments, for they are not wounded or killed like ordinary people. Our mission is to speak the truth to power. You're prepared to sink your country in the Civil War. What happened?
They've opened fire on journalists.
If the government catches you, they'll kill you.
Elsa,
Oh my God, let's get into it.
tell us all about A Private War from 2018.
Directed by Matthew Heineman, who we will get into later because there's a lot to discuss there. It follows the life or the sort of 10-year career span of Marie Colvin, who is, I mean, a bit of a fucking hero, let's be honest. She's a foreign correspondent, a war correspondent, and just all-around badass. And essentially what we're seeing is the coverage that she gave to the world from, the front lines of war-torn countries such as Syria, Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan. And essentially, it's sort of the movie builds to her live broadcast to the CNN, in which she, and you can listen to this recording. It's still,
I went and listened to it last night.
Did you? Did you watch it on YouTube?
Yes, I did, yes.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And she
With Anderson Cooper.
essentially, outs, the government. They're being complete liars. There are no military zones here that they're bombing. It is just civilians. It is just refugees and real people dying on the streets. And yeah, incredible lady, really, opened up people's eyes to the war. And yeah, this movie is very much a biopic of her. It kind of follows also her journey with PTSD, which she, playing very fast and loose with the word manage here, but manages with alcohol. And yeah, I think it was a super interesting film. Very excited to talk about it. And yeah, if you guys haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go and watch it, but be in a good place when you do, because this movie is harrowing. It's very tiring. It's very non-stop, which is done, deliberately, I guess, to mirror the hell of war. Yeah, it's not like an easy breezy. I for sure watched this at like 9:30 in the morning and wish I had not.
Oh, I watched it last night, and I shouldn't have, because I don't think I was in a particularly good place yesterday. And I'm in a better place today. And I feel like maybe if I'd have watched it today, that would have been better for me.
It's one of those films that I think everyone should see, but I will probably never watch again, you know? Like there are quite a few films like that I think show the very worst and the very best of humanity. Like Shawshank, like Schindler's List, like, you know, there are just movies like that are just like complete masterpieces, but I will never ever see again. And I think this film is one of them.
Yeah, agreed. This film completely sold me on Rosamund Pike as an actor, because I knew she was good. I know she's like considered to be a good actor and all that kind of stuff, but like, she's never a name that like would make me want to see a film. Like even when we picked this one, I was a bit like, oh, but it's Rosamund Pike. Yeah. And she's like, especially after going and watching the footage of Marie Colvin after the film, she's like nailed this role.
Like the voice
voice
work that she did.
Because
Holy shit.
there is a clip that they use, and they come back to it at the start of Marie Colvin being interviewed, like the real Marie Colvin, and they cut to it at the end of the film, and they overlay this voice at the start of the film over drone footage of like Homs in Syria are like completely destroyed, and you don't know at the start of the film, at least I didn't know if that was, I assumed it was real audio of Marie Colvin, but then when Rosamund Pike started talking, I couldn't tell whether it was like I couldn't tell the difference, like voice wise, especially voice wise, she's completely
smashed out of the park.
Smashed it, and I think, you know, her performance in this is it is like stellar, and you can see why she was nominated for a Golden Globe for it. I'm quite surprised actually she wasn't nominated for more than she was.
Who won that year? Do we know?
We can look that up. Hang on, I've got it here. Best actress in a motion picture drama. Glenn Close won for The Wife that year, which I haven't seen. So
excellent movie.
But yeah, so interesting cast, because you've got Rosamund Pike as Marie Colvin, who nails it. Jamie Dornan as Paul Conroy, the photographer.
More photographer.
That I'm going to get to in a minute. I love Jamie Dornan, but I'll get to it in a minute.
We'll unpack it.
Tom Hollander as the editor of the Sunday Times.
Sean Ryan.
Who is
literally any time I see Tom Holland in a movie, I'm just like, it's gonna be good.
Yeah, he's like,
here we go.
He's a bit
Strap in.
he's a bit like Mark Strong. If you ever see Mark Strong in a film, you're like, yeah, it's probably all right.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I've never not been amazed by him.
Up, like
he was too little in this role. You know, like I want more Stanley. I love Stanley.
He was
Tucci.
quite charming in it as well.
He really was.
Yeah.
He
with his little towel on his head.
Because honestly, I mean, like Marie was not at her best when they met.
No.
And like she was fairly drunk. She was sort of, you know, a little bit hostile, batting away his advances. And then the next morning, let's be honest, she was just in a downright not happy mood. And he was chatting to her and she was like, do you mind, Stanley Tucci? I'm trying to watch the news. And like, fair enough, we're a war correspondent. But like, I would not have been beguiled by that woman. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I don't know. He just does everything that he does with such honesty that it's like so believable. I feel like that part of the script really had the potential to be a bit like, and like their relationship. But I'm always sold by Stanley Tucci. I think he's great.
The only issue I had with Jamie Dornan in this film is the accent wandered around the place.
I thought he was an all right Scouser.
I thought he started off as RP. So the very first time you see him in Iraq and he talks to Marie, I'm like,
in the hangar.
Is he doing like received pronunciation? And then I was like, oh no, he's doing his Irish accent. And then he goes from Irish to Scouse. There's one bit where he definitely sounds Brummy. And
disagree. Object, my lord. Objection. He was saying too little in that scene for you to judge what his accent was. His literal answers were like, serious? No. Okay. Like,
yeah, but then it carries on for the rest of the film. His accent wanders. It wanders between Ireland and Scouse for me, like his native Irish accent and his Scouse accent. That's not to say he doesn't put in a good performance. Like, it's Jamie Dornan. He's solid. He's solid in everything, even like 50 Shades of Grey. But he's solid.
Have you seen 50 Shades of Grey?
Yeah, of course I have.
I haven't seen that. Is it good?
I've seen the first one. I haven't seen the two afterwards.
Oh my God, no, I tell a lie. I definitely watched some of the first one with my friend Jenna. I can't remember if we finished it. I think we both thought it was like really problematic.
Oh, it's a terrible film.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
Anyway, I love Jamie Dornan in this. Having done a bit of research and looked at photos of the real Paul Conroy, they definitely chose to take some artistic license with the casting there.
Well, Paul Conroy looks like an ex-artilleryman.
He looks like an ex-soldier, which is what he is.
Which is what he is. Jamie Dornan does not.
No, Jamie Dornan. Well, yeah, he just looks like he's walked off of a Calvin Klein ad, doesn't he?
Rocking a great beard.
Yeah. Pretty well groomed.
Yeah.
He's
yeah, they're in like war-torn, because that's the thing, like Rosamund Pike in this looks messy at points, you know, like she looks like she's carrying the weight of the world on her, whereas Jamie Dornan, so you cut from her in a war-torn Syria to Jamie Dornan standing next to her. I'm like, oh, he looks fine. he's fine. He's still very well groomed.
Walk in the park. He's just gone out to get a croissant. Let's just address quickly, briefly, ever so, the nudity in the film.
Okay.
I would have been very frustrated if they did a scene with Jamie Dornan without like Jamie's shirt on. Like, I would have been frustrated because it's just not why is that necessary? Like, yes, we know that Jamie's ripped, we know that he has a sex dungeon, but like he doesn't need to take his clothes off, you know. And so I was like, thank God, okay, they're like playing this straight and he's getting to do some straight acting here, which he's really great at. But there was like a fair bit of nudity of Marie.
Well, there's one scene in particular, isn't there? Where
there's one full frontal.
Yeah.
But then there's also like...
There's a sex scene where she's in her underwear.
A silhouette sex scene. And then there's like a scene in the bathroom where she, for whatever reason, is there in her bra with Jamie Dornan and then puts her shirt on but doesn't do it up. And he comments on that she's wearing the bra.
Yeah.
And I like, what...
That particular scene felt like it may have been... Because obviously, like... definitely artistic license in certain aspects of any like biopic, right? That did feel like that moment actually did feel kind of genuine to me, that like that may have actually happened, like that may have been a recollection from Paul, because he was a consultant on the film, and I feel like this may be like an anecdote he's told before. I don't know, I have no evidence to back that up, but it just felt like too weird of a thing to like write into a script.
Yeah.
Unless I'm like naive in saying that, but like,
I mean, I think it could have been written into a script because I think it's kind of like a moment of kind of like raw humanity, where in Hollywood it'd be like, and this is where they make love. But in like the movie, it's very much just like, no, we're in a fucking war-torn country. She was just hanging off a building and he thought she was going to jump and she's clearly drunk, got PTSD.
Yeah.
She's trying to snap herself out of it. Like, who gives a fuck if the shirt's open? Who cares what, you know,
oh,
like
yeah.
that. So like,
well,
I
mean,
think
in terms of the one, I mean, like that scene could have been, scripted. I mean, the specifics of him saying, "Why are you wearing such a fancy bra?" and her saying,
"This isn't a bra. This is the polo."
Yeah, and like if I get pulled from a ditch, I want to look good when I do. And I feel like that's maybe a joke she's cracked at some point to someone, and they've put it into the film.
Just at the end of that scene, like Honey coughed up a tooth.
Yeah, and then they never really explained what that was about.
Go to the dentist or like what?
Well, I didn't know if it was like, is that...
I think it's her tooth for sure. Is that not what you were going to say? I thought you were going to be like, whose tooth was it?
No, I didn't know. Like, because when I first watched it, I was like, is she getting ill? Like,
She kept coughing, right?
Yeah,
I was
know.
like, oh, she's got TB.
In the lead up to that scene, she's like coughing a lot, and then a tooth comes out, and it's like, is she dying? Like, what's going on there? Or is it like the stress and that's happening? But they never really then explain it. Like, that never comes back later.
I don't know that you lose your teeth from stress. Do you lose your teeth
I
from
don't know.
stress? Don't say that to me.
Your body can do all sorts of weird things, can't
Don't
it?
say that, because I've got a really high energy bill.
Or is it the drinking, or like, and all the cigarettes? Like, what is going on there that...
I mean, I think maybe it's the drinking, maybe it's the cigarettes, maybe it's the fact that she's in a war zone and is getting like her body's just taking a beating every day.
Yeah.
Or maybe that didn't really happen, and Matthew Heineman was just trying to be like,
she's fucked.
We're reflecting like the hell around her and her body, and
yeah, because Jamie Dornan, again, cut to Jamie Dornan after Rosamund Pike's just lost a tooth,
glowing.
He's like, hi,
glowing. Yeah. Are you all right?
Are you all right? Jesus Christ. You're all right.
But Jesus.
But Jesus, you're all right.
But Jesus,
there.
Marie.
Your tooth's just falling out, and I'm standing here looking like a model.
Sorry to all the Irish.
Sorry, I'm supposed
Sorry
to be.
to all one
I'm
of you.
supposed to be from Liverpool.
I'm from Liverpool.
Your apartment looks like Patrick Bateman's London Nightmare.
Thank you.
You look like a cleric I met in Tehran.
Oh, yeah. I just had to dry my hair. That one. Is that who you were shouting at last
What
night?
do you mean, shouting about?
You were. I think you were having a nightmare.
I wasn't. I don't have nightmares.
Okay. Look. I'm a single father who was really husband. And when I'm not working hard, I just like to...
Live hard.
Yeah. I had a great time with you last night, and I would like to see you again.
What was I going to say? You put me off.
You were talking about the nudity. How do you feel about the nudity in this film?
Yeah, I don't know. I still am not sure where I stand on it, but like, I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was like appropriate and raw. The full frontal, I was a bit like, I don't know that scene was necessary.
I don't think it was necessary.
I don't think it was done in a grotesque way at all. I think it was very beautiful, but
it was done fine, but I did think odd how, she was then walking over to Stanley Tucci in the bath, and I kind of thought, we don't see Stanley Tucci's Todger.
Gonads. Todger, I hate Todger so much. I agree.
But then I guess, the point of that scene was her looking at herself, and
that's when she starts taking the eye patch off.
Yeah.
We've cracked it. That's what it is. That is like her montage of acceptance of herself and her body. That's when she starts to be like, I'm not fucking covering my eye anymore.
And she's almost like by taking to be honest, actually, the taking off of the eye patch was more of like a moment of nudity than actually her body, if you see what I mean. You're pulling a face at me.
I'm like, wow, James.
What?
That was beautiful.
No, but it is though.
I'm not being sarcastic.
Oh, okay,
that was great. That was a nice moment.
Because...
God, you're so good.
David Blundy.
Who?
David Blundy.
What about it?
Left for the Telegraph before you joined. I took his job.
What is your point?
And he was killed 2 years later in San Salvador. Jal Silva lost both legs at the knee in Kandahar while working for the New York Times. I was with him in Afghanistan. Safa Abu Said.
Who did he work for?
She was a 12-year-old Palestinian girl, killed by a stray bullet that pierced her heart. I watched her parents hold her as she bled out. She was wearing pearl earrings. She probably thought she looked pretty that day. I see it. So you don't have to.
How about the gardening section, Marie? Would that make you happy? One word to Watkins and you're there. Is that what they all died for?
I don't know what they died for.
Yes, you do. You see it so that we don't have to, yes, but also because you couldn't imagine a world in which you didn't. No one in their right mind would do what you do, Marie. But if you lose your conviction, then what hope do the rest of us have?
I would like to talk about Matt Heineman.
Please do. A first feature film.
First narrative film.
Narrative
yeah.
feature film. Have you seen any of his documentaries before?
I haven't, but I have heard of them.
So I've seen Cartel Land, which I think was his big.
Right. Okay.
Which is
That was the one that he did before. What was the other one? City of God?
City of Ghosts.
City of
Which he did
Ghosts.
after, yeah.
And that was based in Syria. And so I think that was when he was like, that's obviously something that's very close to his heart. So when he wanted to make this film, I think he was, really speaking his truth, and he wanted more people to know about what was happening.
I mean, Cartel Land, if you haven't seen it, I mean, I couldn't really talk about it much because I haven't seen it. I think I saw it when it came out, and I think it's like 2015 that it came out. But if you watch the trailer for Cartel Land, you'll look at it and wonder if it's a documentary or a narrative feature film, because some of the stuff he's getting on camera is like, this can't be like a documentary. Do you know what I mean? He's properly immerses himself in that world in a similar way to like how Marie Colvin does. Like, he throws himself in there.
Yeah, he was with two different gangs in Cartel Land, right?
Yeah.
Like he was fully in there with him. I think it was very dangerous.
Yeah.
I think he's an incredible director.
It makes sense why he picked this as like his first narrative piece. And there's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of moments where it feels very documentary.
Yeah.
And actually I that's probably the one thing that I wish there was more of in this film. There's a particular sequence where they're in Iraq, and it's just after Rosamund Pike's met Jamie Dornan for the first time, and they're in the car and they get stopped by like a military outpost, and they all get taken out of the car and they have to put their hands against the car, but the camera stays inside the car, so you can't really see what's going on very well. You can only see their faces through the window. And that feels very documentary to me and made that moment feel real. And I kind of wish there was a little bit more of that throughout the film.
I felt like that was throughout the film. Like, that was what I loved about this film. I love that moment too. That's when they're on their way to Fallujah, right?
Yeah.
I just think I don't think that anyone else could have made this film like it was, apart from Matt. I think it was very documentary in the style that he approached it with. He interviewed like everyone in Marie's life before he made the film, and they filmed in Jordan, but he didn't want actors, so like those security officers in that scene, they were refugees. Like, pretty much everyone that he spoke to were like refugees. So they filmed in Jordan, and they got refugees from the specific countries that they were supposed to be filming from. And they paid really close attention to like dialect and accent. So like the Tamils in Sri Lanka were, real Tamils. Like, he went to like such huge lengths to make it authentic. And this scene in like the widow's bunker, is that what it was called? The widow's bunker, where she's like walking around and the women are giving her stories, and she's like, I want to tell your stories. Those were real like refugees from Homs telling their stories. And so the woman who like starts crying, describing her little girl that was like stuck under the rubble, and she says, I don't want my words to just be ink on paper. Like, I want people to hear this. That was all like real. And I think that that's incredible. I think that he gave an incredible gift to those people of like letting them be heard. And can you imagine what like an incredible experience that would have been? Like, crazy for the crew, for Rosamund to like be there, as if that, you know, that's what Marie went through.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so powerful. I respect this film so much, and like it means so much more to me now after like I learned that.
There's the one scene in particular that like really stuck with me, and I think it would be hard not for it to stick with you, is the scene in which the little boy gets brought into the like sort of makeshift hospital and dies.
Yeah, like
and the parents are crying, and there's an amazing shot again which feels very documentary. I mean, that whole sequence feels quite documentary again, and I guess in a way that's maybe from what you've just told me, that's maybe I mean, I'm sure it was a stylistic choice, but maybe slightly less of a stylistic choice, and maybe more of a simple result of the way they approach those scenes with people who are really there, because it almost feels like Matthew Heineman has let them just do whatever they need to do.
Yeah, he did. So he left a lot of room for improvisation.
And then they are just capturing it. So in a sense, they are filming it like you would a documentary, because you're just trying to capture what's going on. And there's an amazing shot where you have the two grieving parents in the foreground, and you see Rosamund Pike in the gap between them. And
because she's not the main character of that scene.
No. And it's an incredible. I was going to say it's an incredible performance, and it is an incredible performance from those two, but I imagine it's less of a performance now after what you've told me.
Because it was so, and you could see it too, like on JB Dornan's face when like Paul puts down the camera, he like can't. He's just like froze. He's like can't take any more photos, and he's just like, oh my god, like it was, rough. So that scene for sure. The scene in Fallujah when they dig up the mass grave. Yeah. Those women were, you know, real Afghanistan women who had lost people, in, you know, hadn't seen them for 13 years, and they did turn up in, you know, mass graves, and so there's something like really amazing about it. And that scene when it gets to sundown and they start doing the kind of, I don't know what you would call it, like ritualistic, chanting, funereal chanting and prayer. That was all them. I think these women were really just like, it was all coming back to them, and they just kind of started doing that of their own fruition. Apparently for them, I think it was probably a very cathartic thing to be with each other and to be kind of saying goodbye in that way again. And that was, they kind of just started doing that on their own. And I think Matt got them to, he was like, turn the cameras back on kind of thing. Like, and I think he tried to, in a way, intervene as little as possible with that kind of stuff. I think
if you're going to do that kind of thing, though, that is the only way to do it from, not only from a directing standpoint in terms of like capturing the best stuff for film, but also almost from like a moral standpoint. Like you can't really, you know, because this, like, you know, for these people, it's real, right? And so you can't then try and dictate that, or, you know, that's that, because it's a really difficult, and it must have been a really carefully discussed thing beforehand, because, you know, it adds an element of realism to the film that you otherwise like just cannot replicate, but also in the same, by the same token, it presents quite like an ethical challenge in how you approach these things without, you know, re-traumatizing people or feeling like they're being used and their stories being used just for, you know, Hollywood entertainment. And there's a real sort of line that it could easily be crossed without, you know, you knowing it. So the fact they managed to pull it off, and it does feel completely respectful of those stories. And I think that's the thing you get most out of the film. For me anyway, like it was less of a film about, it almost wasn't a film about Marie Colvin to me, because I was left last night thinking about this film and thinking it never feels like the film has really like has a narrative through line, if you see what I mean. In terms of like a traditional narrative structure, they're just like there really doesn't feel like there is one. And I think that's because he cares more about telling these stories that are going on throughout the world. And in a sense, it kind of feels how, I mean, I don't know Marie Colvin, but from watching the film, I can't imagine her wanting a film to be all about her.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I agree with you to an extent, because I think it is a movie about Marie, but I think it's what's the best way to honor that incredible woman, and to tell her story. It's to tell the stories that she so desperately wanted told and that she died to tell, you know? Yeah. I think, I mean, also just to like go back to earlier when we were talking about like the documentary feel, I read an article with Matthew, and he said that something that like he carried through with him from like his documentary filmmaking days was that if the story that you end with is the same story as the one that you start with, then you haven't done your job right. And he was like, and I tried to carry that through to like this film, like the narrative making of this film. And I think he really did, because I think he probably did start off with like an idea of, you know, I mean, you have like the script, you have, you know,
I'd love to read the script for this actually, because I feel like they might be almost completely different films in a way.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I think, I mean, I know that he left a lot of space and time for improv and to just sort of let these people tell their stories in their own way. Even down to like sound effects. There was so much about this film that they didn't want it to be Hollywood. They didn't want it to be like an action film, that like there was such minimal ADR done, and like especially sound effects, there was next to nothing. All of like the weapons and things that you hear are all real,
but they're also loud as well.
There's an assault coming. We need to go now. Now.
Stop.
What are you doing?
I gotta go back. There are 28,000 people there. We can't
Listen to
abandon
me.
them.
You're brilliant. I'm brave, and you've got an amazing nose for the story. But you don't have a military brain, all right? Here,
Let me go.
Hey, we will freaking die if we go back. Okay? We will
I gotta go back.
die.
You go.
No.
Save your seat at the bar.
No. Which bar? Where? Marie! No. Come on. Come here.
Did you know that? So I read this, and then I'm not sure that this was referenced in the film, and if it wasn't, I'm wondering why it wasn't. So obviously we knew that at points, and this has happened in many wars, journalists start to get targeted because they're feeding back true news to Western countries and allies and things like that.
And she was targeted, wasn't she?
Right. So, well, they all were, but she was assassinated.
Yeah.
Right. Which they found that out 4 years after she died. And I don't know if you know this, the Syrian government had to pay out
damages,
$302 million.
Yeah. No, I did know that. And I was actually surprised that, I don't know, to be fair, I don't know when the
film was shot in, I think, 2017.
After the settlement, after it had been decided.
Yeah.
It surprised me that they didn't reference that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I that's what I was sort of asking, because I was like, did I miss it that they referenced that? Because I think that would have been quite like a...
Well, there's a vague... I think there's like a vague line when they're like leaving the building, they're rushing out in terms of like they're targeting us or so, or like they're firing, but it was. But
I thought that pertained more to the satellite phone that they zoned in on the.
Yeah, I don't think they what I expected it what I expected to happen was it to come up in text at the end. That
Yeah, I thought so as well.
and I thought it was interesting that they didn't say that, and I wonder what the reason for doing that was. Maybe it was they felt that it would take away the last text that is left on screen is the number of Syrian civilians that have been killed since Marie Colvin's death, and I wonder if maybe they didn't want to like take away from that, but I don't think it necessarily would have had to,
Also, I mean, it's possible it's a legal thing when there's a settlement. Sometimes, there are like restrictions that come with that settlement that
maybe
you're not allowed to talk about this anymore. You're not allowed to, like maybe it was something like that. I don't know, but
it's interesting that they left that out.
I fear growing old. But then I also fear dying young. I'm most happy with a vodka martini in my hand, but I can't stand the fact that the chatter in my head won't go quiet until there's a quart of vodka inside me. I hate being in a war zone. But I also feel compelled to see it for myself.
Usually I would come up with some jokey way of rating this film. I'd pick something like...
Yeah, it doesn't really feel appropriate, does it?
But like, what would you give this film out of 5? Like, we always rate it, but like, I'm not going to go like out of 5.
Don't say it.
I'm not going to do it.
There are so many in my head. But I know that my dark humor is just for closed doors.
Not appropriate.
Not appropriate. Not funny. I feel like we could go for something like out of 5. No, it's not bad. Scouse of Jamie Dornans.
Okay, yeah, go on. Out of 5 Irish Scouse Jamie Dornans, what would you give this film?
Oh, you're worried there, weren't you?
What was
I going to say?
Good job we edit these.
I don't think I'm ever going to watch this film again, but I'm going to give it 5 Scouse of Jamie Dornans. I think that this was a really incredible bit of film. I have so much respect for the crew, the people that made this film, the research that went into it. Matthew Heineman, Rosamund Pike, phenomenal. I have a lot of time for this film. I think that this is the kind of film that we need to be made and needs to make it into the cinemas, and it needs to be seen. So top Scouse of Jamie Dornan marks from me. Bearing in mind we gave Cruella.
I think I gave Cruella like a 1.
I think we gave Cruella like a 3.
I didn't give Cruella 3. There's no way I gave Cruella 3.
3.5 Dalmatians. I don't know. I can't remember.
I'm probably going to give this film a 5 as well. I do think it has been made better for me by our conversation. Like, learning the making of it has made it better for me. I
kind of wish I'd read this stuff before I saw it.
Yeah, because part of me was sitting there watching the film last night and like, with no disrespect to the actors or anything like that, but like, part of me was watching it going like, I feel like really what I should be watching now is a documentary about this, not a piece of narrative filmmaking. Mm-hmm. But based on what you've told me, I'm gonna give it a 5 as well. I think it's very well done. Rosamund Pike has a fantastic performance in this film. Jamie Dornan, for the shit I've given about his accent, is really good in it as well. And and Tom Hollander, like, I know we didn't really touch on him, but Tom Hollander can do no wrong. Like, he is good in everything.
Even him coming out of that restaurant, like, fucking self-righteous, whatever, being like, I'm always the bad guy. I was like, oh, God, I love you, Tom Hollander.
I did think, actually, the interesting thing about... because I read something by another war correspondent about this film, and she was quite critical about this film. Janine DiGiovanni, who knew Marie Colvin, was critical of the film because she said there were no good guys at the Sunday Times where Colvin worked who cared for her well-being. There were instead editors who wanted scoops at the expense of the safety of their reporters. I read that and I kind of felt like, well, I don't think the people at the Sunday Times have been portrayed particularly kindly. Like, I kind of like...
Yeah, not really.
Like, Tom Hollander's character doesn't come across as a sympathetic guy. Like, he, you know, there's the moment where he goes and visits her in hospital when she's struggling with PTSD, and he's like, you know...
We can't get the stories out, and there's all this stuff
you
happening.
managed to get Yasser Arafat to give you his life story, so...
Yeah.
Like,
and then she's like, don't flatter me. And he's like, I'm not flattering you. I'm saying that we need you to come back to work.
Yeah. And so it's like, I don't think he does, you know, it does seem like he's someone who...
But
you
can tell there's love there. And I
Yeah.
will say on that, I don't know if you read this, but when her body came back to the States, all of her personal possessions came back to her, which were like all of the stuff that you need for being a war correspondent, plus her friend's manuscript. Did you read that? Gerald Weaver, she was carrying around her friend's manuscript.
Oh, really?
Several hundred pages long. And when it came back with her body, her sister Kat and Sean Ryan, that her editor, made sure that it got published.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I don't want to shit on Sean Ryan because that was a very nice thing.
I'm not shitting on him. Like,
I'm just
feel
saying,
like it's more complex than maybe this. Like, I don't know, Janine DiGiovanni. Like, I may be fucking talking out my arse on this because, like, she clearly probably knows more than I do about all of this. But I don't feel like he was particularly portrayed in a hugely sympathetic light. I think what was good about this film, I thought, and actually the same with Marie Colvin. I don't think, you know, the characters in this film were very, like, three-dimensional. Like, it wasn't clear cut that, like, these were, like, not great people is the wrong word, but, like, it wasn't a Hollywoodized, like, oh, here's the friendly editor and here's the war correspondent that is completely
a hero.
Because ultimately, like, at the end of the film...
To clarify, I think she's a fucking hero.
No. Yeah,
but in the film...
I'm not disputing that, but,
no,
like...
I know.
But like, you know, the film is... You know, you do get frustrated with her at the end because you're like, just leave. Like, Jamie Dornan is telling her, we've got to go. And you're just... Because you know what's coming. It's like, please, just go. And, you know, she lets the importance of getting the story out, she puts that above her own personal safety, which, you know, I think is very admirable, but is also, as a lead character in a film, like, it's frustrating to watch, you know? And
I will say, though, like, that Jamie Dornan has, like, they make a point of being like, if you use this satellite phone, they will track it and they will find us. And so just, like, I'm sure this is, like, my naivete showing, so if anyone knows more about this, hit us up. But, like, that broadcast, could that not have waited until she was, like, back in the green zone?
That's
Do you
what
know what I mean?
didn't
Like,
understand.
could she not
Why
have done
did she
that,
have
Paul?
to do it there? Why?
Could she not have gone on CNN when she was back in the Western world? Like, that was frustrating for me. That signal, that satellite phone call that she made, that essentially was what got them tracked and killed. And Paul did, like, an interview where he said how they died, and it was they were literally packing their bags to leave, and there was open fire and they were shot. Anyway, how many scouts to Jamie Dornan?
I'm giving it a 5.
You're giving it a 5?
Yeah.
I'm also giving it a 5.
Right. So that was A Private War, everybody.
We're giving it a 5, are we?
We're giving it a 5.
We're giving it a 5. Jamie, I'm so sorry if you ever hear this. I thought you were great.
I thought he was great. I just thought his accent wobbled a bit, but that's fine. You know, it wasn't as bad as, like, Russell Crowe in Robin Hood.
Haven't seen it.
His accent's all over the fucking place in that film.
Russell, I'm sorry if you ever hear this.
So this is the point of the podcast where we go into the credits, we pick 3 crew members, and from those 3 crew members, we pick one And from their filmography, we get our next film. This week, it is Elsa's turn to pick from my choices of 3. Elsa is currently looking like she's lost something.
I was looking for a pen because I get nervous that I'm going to forget what you've said, so I always write it down.
Have a pencil.
Okay, thank you.
It's a fancy pencil. By the way, I'm not going to tell you who, but there is one in particular that I really want you to pick.
Yeah, but you do always do that. Is there a wild card?
There's more than one.
Oh, great. Okay, so 2 wild cards.
I've tried to go
because
I've tried to go a little bit less. I mean, to be honest, this has been a fantastic episode of the podcast, but I've tried to lighten the mood a little bit after this.
Well, that's great.
Like
but the last time I chose a wild card and we got the breakup, you didn't let me forget about it for about 6 weeks. So prepare yourself for hell.
So
fresh hell.
We have Alexander Gunn, the special effects supervisor.
Gung. Cool name.
Gunn, yeah. Dionys Fry.
Oh.
That's a good name.
Yeah.
Aerial drone pilot.
Right. I thought that was the name of someone.
No. That's their role in the film.
I was like, behave, James.
And Claire Holland, who is the supervising scenic painter.
Ooh. Okay.
So those are your choices for next week.
Dionys. That aerial shot that
at the end
it came up and ended
amazing.
with.
It's an amazing shot.
Yeah, so I mean, the latter part of that is VFX, but like the majority of that is a set that they built in Jordan, which I think is pretty cool. Supervisor scenic painter. That's the fucking wild card, isn't it?
No.
You just laughed.
It's actually, no, I'm
right,
laughing
okay.
because you're taking so long.
It's because I'm really thinking about it because I like to think about the person that I really appreciated in the film that we just watched. Okay, I'm going to go for Dionys Fry, the aerial drone pilot.
So you have picked the one I wanted you to pick.
Oh, no.
Because I haven't seen this film.
It's the wild card.
And I feel like we're both going to find it hugely infuriating because it is Point Break, but not one of our favorite films of all time, Point Break, but the remake of Point Break.
Do you know what? I've actually got that on Blu-ray. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it.
Okay.
But I've got it on. My mum got it for me. Love you, mum. Got it for me for Christmas, like years and years ago. When did that come out?
I think maybe 2015.
Yeah, makes sense.
Hang on, Point.
Because I love the original. She was like, they redid it.
I love the original.
I know, but you can't what are you're not gonna, Keanu and you're not, nah. Just don't even try.
So we are watching join us next time when we will be watching the 2015 remake of Point Break.
Podcast sponsored by Red Bull.
Thank you very much for listening. And we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Take care. Bye.